生の英語1、4時間目の授業の人は受付で、徳見先生の印鑑のある、カードを受け取ってください。そして、同じく4時間目、清水先生と井上の英語1の受講者は印のないカードを受け取ってください。で、レポート付きの出席カードを受け取るのはその人たちですね。で、清水先生の方からこのように指示があります。先ほどありましたね。で、徳見先生の方からは授業で指示を聞いているかと思います。で、私の方は、ディベートの内容を簡単でいいですからメモを取って、どちらが勝ったか、を一応書いてもらって、出して、それも来週出してもらいます。何か授業関係で質問の人、授業関係で質問ありますか？で、それで一般の方、一般学生の人を含め、配布物は受付でプログラムが1枚あります。そして、外のところに自由に取ってくださいというのを置いてましたので、取ってください。取らないように、1人1枚だけ取るようにしてくださいね。後で友達が来るからとか言うんで、取らないように。余分に持ってる人は返してください。間違って2枚指にくっついてしまったかなということで返してください。Announcement about those people who are taking course as a credit. もう一点だけ注意ですけれども、先ほどの3時間目の井上の授業、ちょっとトラブルがあったせいで、この授業、この時間に来て、出席も可能だと言いましたので、その人は白紙のレポート用紙を受け取ってください。いいですかね。Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We'd like to open the 2009 Japan-US Exchange Debate. My name is Narahiko Inoue, Professor of English and Communication, Kyushu University. Today, we are very glad to have the visiting American team coming to Ito campus. This exchange debate is at the Kyushu University is co-sponsored by the Japan Debate Association and Kyushu University Faculty of Language and Cultures, with the help of Kyushu University ESS, English Speaking Society. And this whole Japan tour of the American team is sponsored by Japan Debate Association and supported by GTEC for Students with Benefit Corporation. And this is realized with the cooperation of the American National Communication Association. I hope by watching the debate, and hopefully some of you watching or listening to the lecture in the next period will understand academic debate and argumentation better. The session one includes the debate. I will momentarily ask the American participants to introduce themselves, and then we'll get on to the debate. The resolution for today is resolved that the Japanese government should prohibit minors from using a cellular phone. And the format of the debate is given in the program, so please look at that. For those people, Kyushu University students who took English 1 or are taking English 1, the debate is explained, the essence of academic debate is explained in the special section toward the end of the book, Debating in English. Now I'd like to welcome a few words from the visiting American team. First, the coach and the lecturer, Professor Stephen Yano. I'd like to hand the microphone to him.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Steve Yano. I'm a professor of rhetoric at St. John's University in Queens, New York City. And thank you very much for having us this afternoon. I look forward to the debate, and I look forward to answering any questions you have about it and speaking with you hopefully later. So thank you for coming to the debate. Thank you for having us, and enjoy.
Thank you. Now, two debaters.
My name's Chris Gerard. I recently just graduated at Truman State University, and Tony and I we came in a couple days ago and been visiting a lot of universities, and this is by far the largest audience so far, so thank you very much, and I guess we'll be debating soon, so I hope you enjoy that.
Hi everyone, my name is Tony Liao, and I would like to echo my partner Chris's comments. Thank you all very much for coming. I know a lot of you in here are learning English, so before I get started, I wanted to say and encourage people to participate in debate and the activity of debate with a personal anecdote, which is that I've been debating for, this is now my 10th year of debating, and in fact, I was born in Taiwan, and English is my second language, and debate is really what allowed me and enabled me to learn English to the extent that I have now. So for those of you who want to improve on your English skills, I hope you enjoy the debate, and it is really one of the best ways you can to improve your language abilities. So thank you very much, and I hope you enjoy the debate.
Thank you very much, especially Tony, for commenting about your language experiences. Now that we know that you can practice debating in English and will become like Tony. Now we'd like to welcome two debaters from Kyushu University, Ms. Haruka Araki, second year student, School of Economics. And Ms. Ayaka Tachibana, also second year student, School of Agriculture. They will take the negative side of the resolution. Now, the debate will be chaired by also an English-speaking society debate section member, Ms. Taniguchi. So I will ask Taniguchi to chair the debate and step down and let the debate begin.
First, affirmative constructive speech, 6 minutes, please.
So before I read case, I wanted to give a really quick round of thank yous on behalf of myself and the other Americans. That we would like to thank the Japanese Debate Association for hosting us and helping the tour. We'd like to thank GTEC for students for, of course, providing the money so that it can occur. We'd like to thank Kyushu University and the Faculty of Languages and Cultures, and especially Professor Inoue for, I didn't even get that close, right? Inoue for being such great hosts and putting everything together. And we would like to thank the negative team for volunteering and debating us, and absolutely thank the audience. So now I will read case. All right. So we're happy today to defend the resolution because I think what we see is as cell phones become more and more popular and more people are using them, it's time to take a step back and reflect. And our argument here is that many students and everyone has a cell phone. Currently there are over 100 million subscriptions as of last January for cell phones. Everyone has a cell phone, and we think it's the government responsibility to guarantee the health, safety, and education of its citizens. And so we'd be happy to ban cell phones for all minors, despite a lot of people probably not being a big fan of that. So the plan that we will be defending, this is our argument where all of the advantages stem from, is that the Japanese national government will ban the possession and use of cell phones for all people under the age of 20. This will be enforced by substantially fining any cell phone company that provides minors cell phones, and any minor caught with a cell phone will also be substantially fined. So basically, if you're under 20, you're not allowed to have or use a cell phone ever. So, contention 1 is we think this is good for schools. Subpoint A, we argue that many students are using cell phones in their school to cheat or harass other students. And this is an argument from Eric Johnson in the Japan Times, 2009. He says that in the July report, the Prefectural Education Committee warned that a growing number of children are becoming addicted to their cell phones, sending emails during class or cheating by logging onto the internet to look up test answers. We also think, in little 2 here, that cell phones are also hurting performance in schools, that an addiction to cell phones may be affecting Osaka students in particular. An education ministry survey of academic ability on October 2007 showed Osaka's elementary and junior high school students ranked near the bottom of all 47 prefectures in reading, logic, and arithmetic skills, and sparked an intense debate in that prefecture that continues to rage on. So in subpoint B, we just think that the ban will totally remove cell phones from inside and outside the classroom for most of these students. And the argument goes in subpoint C that this will help students learn better. That means that they can go to better schools, they can pay more attention in the classroom, which will help them get better jobs, and it will keep Japan internationally competitive in the markets and in other types of businesses. We think it's good for the Japanese economy and those students in particular. Our next contention is contention 2, which we think having a lot of cell phones is very distracting and causes accidents. In subpoint A, we would say that people use cell phones everywhere and they're not paying attention. They use them on the trains, they're making calls or texting while they're driving. We saw someone yesterday texting while biking, and of course you're just walking around with your head down in your phone. And little 2 here, we think that this is especially dangerous for 18 and 19-year-olds who are just first learning how to drive and getting their driver's license. We think if you can text and call while you're driving, you're gonna get into a lot more accidents and hit people, and that will be bad. And little 3, we say that even if minors aren't driving, they can still be distracted while they're walking around and walk into traffic or not notice the changing color of the lights and get hit by not trains I guess, but cars and bikes. So, in subpoint B, we just think the ban increases awareness. If your head isn't buried in a cell phone, then you can notice everything that's around you and you can obey traffic. And subpoint C, we think that this is going to prevent people from dying in car accidents, getting hit by a car, getting hit by a biker. And what that means is, like, we think that this is the most important type of thing to prevent, because the deaths from accidents are much, much, much more likely than death by a crime. And our third contention is health. Our argument here is that the effects of cell phones are not widely understood right now, but there are a couple of early studies that say that they could be very dangerous. There's a study that just came out in Sweden that said if you use a cell phone for more than an hour a day, you will get a non-malignant tumor, which may or may not eventually turn cancerous, or if it's in your brain, it could be problematic. Our little 2 here is that it could be a lot like other products, such as lead, asbestos, x-rays, that people were really excited about originally, and then studies years later indicated that they were really, really dangerous. Our little 3 here is that we think it's uniquely dangerous to have cell phones when you're really young, because this is when your brain is developing and your body's developing. And if you start to receive tumors in your brain before it's even fully developed, then that could seriously decrease your later abilities. So in subpoint B, we argue that the plan will remove the health risk until the bodies are much more developed and people are able to handle the radiation. And our subpoint C, we think that this is going to prevent tumors, possibly cancerous tumors, which will decrease the chances of death, and also increase the ability of especially young children to develop properly. Thus, we stand in affirmation of the resolution, and we're now ready for the question section. Are you going to take a proper
Cross-examination by the second negative speaker. 3 minutes, please.
I have some questions to you. First, you think accident leads to this?
Yes.
So why accidents leads to this?
Accidents like people driving with cell phones. In America, it's very, very common for young people to have cell phones and get into accidents, which kills people or damages property. But also, when there's so many people around and the streets are very tight in Japan, if you're looking at your cell phone, you could walk out and not see a car coming.
Okay, and next, you said students studying more and more, Japanese economic will grow.
Yeah, I think long term, if Japanese students are paying more attention in class, then that will translate to being better prepared for the workforce and will keep Japan more economically competitive.
Okay, and you think micromagnetic wave leads to this? Electric wave leads to this?
Oh, yeah. That the radiation from the phone,
Yeah.
it's dangerous.
It's always leads to this?
Oh, it could. We're gonna go with it could.
Yeah. So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, we accept the definition, but strongly oppose this motion because In this century, especially the young are exposed to a rapid progress of innovation of the technology. So children need to deal with much more information. So first, I will show our team stance. Our team stance is minors should understand the correct way of using cell phone by education, and then it leads to protecting them and enrich their life. So first, I'd like to mention the government and protect that role. Even though cell phone does harm, we shouldn't take it away from them easily, because their role is to watch over the minors and help their healthy growth. Before I explain our argument, I want to repeat back to what previous speaker said. First, he said about accident. So, he said about study for children. Children looking at cell phones during classes and during testing. But it is not true, because most children can't use cell phone at their school because the teachers looking at them, and teachers scold them if they are using cell phone. And more, we educate children the correct way of using cell phone, what is right and what is wrong. And next, this is about accident. Cell phone cause accident because children use them during walking, riding bicycle, or so on. So it is dangerous, but the cell phone is not the cause of accident. If we take it away from children, the possibility of cause accident will not change. Because we believe to listening to music player is more dangerous to children because they can't hear surrounding sounds, and it has more possibility to cause accident. And next, they said about health. The radio wave is harmful for children's body, but it is irrelevant. The cause of disease is not only on cell phone. There are many reasons, but lifestyle, or but habit of food, or stay up late. There are main reasons to cause disease. So not only cell phone will cause disease. So the argument does not stand. And next, I'll explain our point. We have 2 points. First is about safety. According to Police White Paper of Japan, every year, about 1,345 atrocious crimes occur every year. And in addition, 15,775 violent crimes also occur every year. So children don't have enough knowledge to crime, and they can't protect themselves. From parents' standpoint, cell phone is very useful to protect children. According to research from a mobile company, 90% of parents feel that their children's safety is protected when their children have cell phones. Why is that? Because the cell phone has the function of GPS. So parents can recognize where they are, and they also contact with children easily by using email or telephone call. And next to our point is communication. The penetration rate of cell phone has been increasing rapidly. And most children have their own cell phone. So that aim is mainly to keep in touch with their friends. In the daytime, children go to school and meet their friends, but the time which children can spend on talking with friends is limited because they have to study during classes, they have to go club activities or private lessons after school. So cell phone make up for their communication. I'll show one example. Children are in the age of adolescence, and so they have many troubles and need kind advice. If using cell phone, they can talk with friends without being heard by someone. Everyone hesitates to talk about their mental or physical problems in the public place. But by using cell phone, no one listens to you, even your family. So you can keep secret. And so it is very important for adolescence age minors. So finally, I make summary. With negative side, insist that the cell phone is very important tool for children because now the innovation of technology is non-stop and we can't stop it. Children have to adapt this change. So only banning cell phone will not solve this problem. We have to educate children how to use cell phone correctly. Okay, so for these reasons, we beg to oppose, we strongly oppose this motion. Thank you for listening.
Cross-examination by the past affirmative speaker, 3 minutes, please.
So when you were talking about our case on contention 1, schools, you said that most children can't use them and can't use cell phones in schools because teachers are watching, right?
Yes.
Have you ever used your cell phone during class?
No.
No?
I don't.
But you know someone who does, right?
No.
No?
Yes.
Yeah. Everyone here uses their cell phones during class, right? On accidents, you said music is more dangerous for accidents, but do you think that if they are listening to music, they still have their head up and they're looking around?
But when we listen to music, we can feel any sounds of surroundings. So if the car pushing their bell, we can hear that. And it's more dangerous to looking at cell phone because when we looking at cell phone during walking, sometimes we pick up our eyes and looking around the surroundings.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a cell phone to look at, you could still look around and not hear anything, but you'd still see, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd like to talk about your second point of communication.
Yes.
You said that it's good because it helps kids keep secrets.
Okay.
Yeah. That they can keep secrets from their parents, they can talk
Yes.
to friends.
Because the cell phone has a private connection to their friends.
Mm-hmm.
So if you in your own room and you use cell phone, parents can see what you do.
Right. Doesn't that seem more dangerous?
No?
No?
But, we said we do education at the school about how to using cell phone. And it's risk education at home, we believe.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Second affirmative constructive speech, 6 minutes, please.
So before I get started, I would again like to echo Chris's comments about how we thank everyone for coming. We'd like to thank GTEC and NSA for making this whole trip possible. It's been a tremendous opportunity. And we'd also like to thank Kyushu University for hosting us and inviting us to come speak. It's really a great honor. So this debate, we believe, having heard the opposition's arguments, comes down to whether the government should protect people's health, protect education, and their safety versus convenience. And we believe, on the affirmative, that the role of the government should be to protect the safety of its citizens over convenience, because while convenience is nice, it is not essential, and the government should always err on the side of safety and protecting their citizens. So the first thing I would like to do is refute the 2 points of opposition and then rebuild the affirmative's case. So the first thing that the opposition said was that parents will feel that their children will be safer because there will be GPS on their cell phones. My first response is that there's no reason why this has to be in the form of a cell phone. You could have another device that was just a GPS and not necessarily also a cell phone. But the second thing is that this actually only is a false sense of security. It doesn't increase people's safety because criminals are smart. If they're kidnapping someone and they know that there's a GPS on them, they can first throw it away. And then the second thing is they will allow the child to have the time to press the button. And third, and even worse, is that they could potentially use the GPS device to distract the police by, say, taking it from a child and going somewhere where the child wasn't, and it would actually throw the police off the track of the kidnapping itself or the crime. And so there will be no safety benefits from having a cell phone. My next argument is that cell phones can actually cause kids to stay out later, go places alone, and as the opposition admit, do things that their parents don't know about, which will put them in more dangerous situations where crimes will actually happen. And the last thing that could happen as a result of cell phones is that parents pay less attention because they think that the cell phone will solve the problem, that the technology will solve the problem. But as we have seen above, this is just not the case. And so the safety benefits of cell phones that they outline do not outweigh the harm that cell phones cause, as we'll see later on. The second thing that they said is that it will increase convenience, that it's necessary for communication. But think about the time before cellular phones, when you could simply talk to someone and you could tell your secrets to them that way. Somehow, for thousands of years, people made do and were able to communicate without cellular phones. And so while it may make it a little more convenient, it is still not an essential form of communication, and you could still have all the benefits of talking to someone instead of being on your phone all the time. And convenience at the cost of death, the affirmative believes, is not worth it. The other thing that might happen is that people will actually keep their appointments if they don't have a cellular phone. It used to be that if you said you were going to be somewhere, you would have to be there. But now people are late, people will call, people have all kinds of distractions, and it might actually become less convenient because they have multiple places to go and multiple demands on their time. But even if you believe that it will increase convenience, we don't believe it is worth it for the 3 reasons we outlined above. So first, schools. Now, They say that they will educate students on how to use cellular phones. But I don't know if you've ever had teachers that are trying to teach you how to do something when they don't know how to do it themselves. I would say that children are much better, or minors rather, are currently much better than their teachers at using cellular phones, which means that they will be able they will tune them out, it won't be effective, and they'll get away, they'll find a way around it. And they say that you can't use cellular phones in schools. And sure, there might be some rules, but I have. Students are smart. They will play games, they'll go to the bathroom, they'll text under the table. Teachers have many, many students they have to watch for, and they can't monitor them all. And it definitely happens. And so everyone knows that you shouldn't do it, but it still happens anyway. So that's the education point. It definitely is at least another distraction on students that we want to eliminate through banning cellular phones. Now, contention 2 is distractions. And they said that music players might be more distracting than cellular phones, but we don't believe this is true. First of all, cellular phones are more distracting because you can look down, as my partner mentioned in cross-ex, and it'll distract you from seeing what's around you. The second thing is that music players are just playing music, whereas cellular phones, you can have conversations. And so those require more attention to the conversation because you're engaging with someone else. And so it's actually more distracting than just listening to music. And so not only are your ears taken up, your mind is taken up as well into the conversation, which is why cellular phones are so much more dangerous than music players. Now, the third point that the contention 3 about health, they say that it's irrelevant that it causes major health problems, but we disagree. It is a major cause even though there are many other lifestyle issues, and particularly when children are that young and their brains are still developing, and the harmful effects of early studies show that the unknown effects of tumors and cancer on young minds in particular is dangerous, and cell phones have only been around for a very short period of time. We are just now seeing the harmful effects of all of these things, all the things that cell phone can do, just like all the other technological reasons, or things that we thought were once good that later turned out to be extremely dangerous. And now we know that the radiation from cellular phones is starting to show its effects. And so for those reasons, we beg you to affirm. Thank you.
Cross-examination by the first negative speaker. 3 minutes, please.
Okay, I have some questions. First, you said children use cell phone and they stay up late at night.
Yes, some children do stay up late at night.
Yes, but
It doesn't work. Maybe it does.
But if we prohibit the cell phone, children will reading comic books or playing on PC, and they stay up late at night.
Well, while staying up late is one reason why people's health may be low, that's still not a reason why we need cellular phones, especially since the government's case is that cellular phones are the things that is causing the damage because the radiation is so close to your head.
But you can't deny the alternative, such as comic books or PC. Before cell phone, people conversation face to face, and now, as I said, the society with high technology, and we can't live without cell phone. Don't you think so?
No. Here's how I used to tell my friends secrets. And that used to work okay.
Okay. And you said children are smart and they know how to use cell phone. But if so, we don't have to prohibit cell phone from children.
Oh no, children know how to use cell phones to play games and text and do a lot of things that they shouldn't do. And they do it much better than a lot of adults, which is why your education program will not be effective.
But in our education system, we teach children how to use cell phone correctly. It means the right things and wrong things. To don't watch the harmful side or don't use in the bus or public places. We teach about manners.
I don't think a lot of them will listen because games are a lot of fun.
So next, you said about radio wave, but it is rare case because I don't know about person who died from radio wave. I don't think it is so serious.
The long-term effects of cellular phones are just starting because they're just starting to do long-term research. And so we're now seeing the first signs that cell phones are not as good for us as we might think. And it seems to make sense that if you're holding something right next to your atama, that some bad things might happen as a
Time
result
is
of that.
over.
Okay, thank you.
Second, negative constructive speech, 6 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen in this house. Under state school, many minors have cellular phones. According to the research by Japan Economy and Industry newspaper, 43% of Japanese elementary school students have their own cell phone, and according to the research by Tokyo Education Committees, 66.4% of junior high school students and 96.2% of high school students have their own cell phone. Judging from this, we can say that cellular phones are playing an important role in minors' daily life. So we strongly believe that today's plan will cause a really bad change for minors. And our team stance is that minors should be informed of the correct way of using cell phone by education, and it must lead to protecting them and enriching their life. So I refute back to what previous speaker said under this stance. They said about that students can't concentrate on class, and students is smart, so students use cell phone in class. But it is not true because if we take away cell phone from minors, minors don't think study is very important. Minors will fall asleep or draw a picture or read a comic book, so they can't concentrate on class. And second, they said about accident, but today we prohibit using of minors, only minors, so adults can use cellular phone with driving. So if minors don't have cell phone, they will be attacked by car of adults. So the problem of accidents can't be solved. And next, let me reconstruct our point. Our first point is about safety of minors. As my partner said, more and more crimes and accidents involving minors are occurring. And the status quo, children are very small and weak and don't have good insight to society because of lacking of experiment. So they can't protect themselves as well as adults. And nowadays, as my partner said, many minors go home late at night because of cram school or private lesson. So they should have cell phones and carry it because cell phones have very useful function to protect minors. It is GPS, the system calculating a person's location by using satellite. So minors can locate themselves and their parents can also find where they are, and it leads to solving accidents and crimes. I have evidence to support this point. According to MSN Industry and Economic News, in March 2008, 5 elementary school students got lost in Mount Tsukuba, and by using GPS, they could be rescued within about 2 hours and a half. This is how GPS can rescue minors. Even if minors are kidnapped, GPS tells us where they are and it leads to early settlement. And in addition, many cell phones have crime prevention buzzer. So a child goes home at night and it is attacked by pervert. That big sound can reverse him. And in addition to GPS, the function of calling is also useful to protect minors because they can ask help by calling. I have evidence to support this point. According to Mainichi newspaper, when 16-year-old girl was kidnapped at night, she asked her mother to help by calling and she was rescued safely. Like this, adding to this convenience, cell phone can protect minors. We don't have any other tool than cellular phone, which has such kind of various and helpful function. If we adopt the plan, it is clear that minors lose safety. Government has a responsibility to protect citizens' life, and it is strange that government plan breaks citizens' life. And our second point is about communication. As you know, cellular phone's main function is calling and sending email. Now communication is based on cellular phone, especially an email system is what minors often use. Now many minors communicate with each other by using cellular phone. Of course, minors have opportunity to talk with friends in school, but the time is limited. If minors have cellular phones, they can communicate at home or on holiday. According to the research of Venice Corporation, 93% of minors said that the opportunity of communication with friends has increased by cell phone. In this way, you see, cell phone has been enriched our communication very much. So we strongly believe that government should not rob minors of precious communication tool because government doesn't have right to restrict minors' freedom. For these reasons, we strongly oppose this motion. Thank you.
Cross-examination by the second affirmative speaker. 3 minutes, please.
Thank you. The last thing you said was that governments don't have rights to restrict children's freedom.
Yeah.
Can children drink alcohol?
One more, please.
Can children drink alcohol? Beer.
They can drink alcohol.
Can they smoke cigarettes?
No, they can't.
So the government can stop children from doing things that are harmful.
Yes, it's harmful, so government prohibit smoking and drinking.
So if cell phones cause cancer and are dangerous and might cause children to not pay attention, do you think the government has the right to regulate them?
I don't think so because my partner said it's a rare case, and as I said, cell phone has a very useful function to protect them.
Okay. So you said that sometimes adults use cellular phones when driving, right?
Minors.
Adults, when they're driving, they might use a cellular phone.
But we can educate them.
So if an adult is driving and using a cellular phone, and a child is walking on the street also using their cellular phone, isn't that more dangerous?
But we prohibit cellular phone. Adults use cellular phone with driving, so it's not a solution of accidents.
Okay. You said that the GPS is helpful for safety, yes?
Yes.
So why couldn't you just have a buzzer and a GPS system that wasn't a cell phone? So there are devices that are just GPS and just emergency buzzer that aren't cell phones. Wouldn't that do the same thing but not have the same distractions as cellular phones?
Cell phone has both function, GPS and buzzer, so it's more useful than only buzzer. Yes.
Well, you could build a device that had both a GPS and an emergency buzzer, yes?
But there are any other goods which have both GPS and buzzer, so cell phone is most useful.
So you said that sometimes students fall asleep and draw pictures in class?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Hello everyone again. Today in this debate, please think about which is better for minors, Prohibit cellular phone or not. What do you think about the cellular phone? It is very important tool because it has the function of email or telephone call or some GPS, music player, taking camera. It has many functions, but the affirmative side says it causes large harm to children because it has a radio wave and cause accident. It leads to neglect study. But we believe about accident that radio wave is not unique to minors. It is also relevant to adults. If we prohibit cell phone from minors, the parents and the teachers or the people in your town use cell phone, and it will affect the children's brain and as they said, it causes disease. But we don't think cell phone causes disease or cancer. Do you think cell phone causes cancer in your brain? I don't think so. They don't have the data. And about neglect study, please imagine if the government prohibits minors to use cell phones. Really, you engage in study. I think so because there are some alternatives such as comic books or papers between friends. But we, negative side, insist that now the high technology society will not stop its innovation, and we have to adapt to this situation. Not only adults but also children. If we take it away from children, they can't get information, and it is more dangerous to this. So, as my partner said, we shouldn't prohibit the cell phone using. Thank you for listening.
First positive rebuttal speech, 3 minutes, please.
Okay, at the end of the debate, I think you're just going to see very clearly that there are two options in front of you. You have a world that has cell phones, that has all of the things that happen right now, or you have a world without cell phones. And Tony and I's argument is just very simple, that we think in a world without cell phones that people are safer because it decreases accidents, it avoids tumors and possible anomalies, and it also doesn't let criminals trick the police or give parents a false sense of security. In addition to that, we think a world without cell phones just leads to better academics and much more face-to-face communication. But let's talk about, in a little bit more detail, the safety issue that our opponents keep bringing up. Over and over again, they just say that the cell phones can be used as a GPS device and that some students got lost. But remember, they never make the argument that the device has to be a cell phone. I think in a world without cell phones, people will still want to protect their children, so they could make things like a watch that has GPS and a buzzer for safety. In this world, it would even be better because criminals wouldn't know what the GPS device is. They couldn't just throw it away like they could a cell phone. But also, when they're talking about the students who got lost, I don't understand why GPS was so important. Like, why didn't they just ask someone? That increases the face-to-face communication, right? I mean, they live in the area, so I imagine someone knew where the train station was. Then, when they're talking about communication, I just think Tony's absolutely right that before cell phones, people still made appointments and they talked with one another and they met on time, and I think it's incredibly plausible that we just return to that environment. So then, when you look to our case, their argument here is that if you take away cell phones, that minors will still have things that distract them at schools like sleeping or doodling. But our argument here is great because it says if you take away the biggest distraction, then academics get better. Additionally, they get better because teachers might not be able to tell if you're texting right here under the desk, but I bet they can tell when you fall asleep on your desk, and they can prevent things like that. So I think we all agree that academics will be better. When they're talking about accidents, I just think in a world where you're like looking down and you're having conversations, it's always going to be more distracting than having headphones in and you can look around and see what's going on. And then when you talk about the cancer issue, I think the studies are pretty significant, and given that there haven't been any really long-term studies, that more and more problems will develop. So thus we stand in affirmation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I'll summarize today's debate. We have 2 points. First point is about safety. As I said, cellular phone has many functions to protect minors. GPS can help minors who lose away or are kidnapped. And crime prevention officer can reverse backward, and calling is useful to ask help to someone. Now many minors have on cellular phone, so it is to protect the big number of minors. And our second point is about communication. As we said, minors can communication with friends at home and on holiday by cellular phone. Friends is very special existence for minors. Minors think they want to cultivate friendship each other. So to cultivate friendship, we shouldn't take cell phone away from minors. And on the other hand, their point accident and electromagnetic waves are not only problem of minors. So if we adopt plan, it means we prohibit minors having cellular phone. It won't lead to solving this problem because adults can use cell phone with driving car, and so accidents which are caused by cellular phone won't disappear. And in addition, in case of radio wave, there are many other goods which have radio waves, so prohibiting minors using cell phone can solve this problem. And so the plan can solve the problem, accident and radio wave. And in point of studying, the plan can solve the problem. Students can't concentrate on class because the students don't think studying is important. They can't concentrate on class. So whether students study hard or not depends on their thinking. And they can other things, for example, drawing a picture or reading comic book with hiding a teacher. So they can't concentrate on the important thing is their thinking. So their plan won't solve any problem. So we should choose convenience and safety of cell phone. So all reasons, we strongly oppose this motion. That's all, thank you.
Second affirmative rebuttal speech, 3 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, and I would like to close out this debate by saying I hope I'm not hearing the opposition right, that they say Japanese students are so lazy that we should just let them be lazy. But what this debate comes down to is that the government has the obligation to protect the health and the education and the safety of minors in particular, because they are the most at-risk population. And so when it comes to children, convenience is nice, but it is a luxury, and the government should always err on the side of safety. In the 20th century, time and time again, you see societies rushing to a new technology, thinking that it'll make things better. But lead, we started building things with lead pipes, we paint that contains lead, and then we later find out that it's extremely dangerous and that children were dying from eating lead. The same with asbestos, the same with x-rays. We now know that these things in large quantities can cause cancer and cause harm to children. And this is what the studies are now showing about cellular phones, which is why governments have to take the stand, however unpopular, to protect children. Because it is right next to their heads, and it's not a far stretch to say that radiation that close to your head can be dangerous. The main opposition point seems to be safety. But first, there's a larger safety concern of accidents, of people not paying attention, and people walking into the middle of the street from cellular phones and not looking and not paying attention. That is the major thing that happens with cellular phones. That is the most common thing. And accidents are by far the largest cause of preventable death. And the second thing is they're not answering our contention that there's no reason it has to be a cellular phone. Chris made the great point that it could be a watch, it could be anything else that just has a GPS and just has a buzzer, and that would be enough. You don't need cellular phones. That's what we keep thinking. We think we need cellular phones. But the truth is that we don't. And we can also see this in the opposition point of communication. Before there were cellular phones, people managed to communicate. They made appointments. They called people at their home. They found them and they talked to them face to face. And so cell phones are not critical to do this. To summarize, banning cell phones will prevent accidents and prevent death. It will increase some people, it might make it a little better, maybe increase the probability that some students will pay attention in schools. And it will eliminate a major issue, which is that it will eliminate cancer, or it will stop the radiation and stop the harmful effects of children. And so we close the debate by saying banning cellular phones is better for children, better for their health, better for adults, and better for society at large. Thank you very much for listening.
All speech is over. Please give debaters a big hand again.
Well, thank you very much. After hearing the debate, what do you think about the use of cell phone or government ban on cell phone? Just a quick survey. I'd like to ask you to raise your hand. After hearing this debate, how many of you think maybe a good idea for the government to ban cell phone minors? How many of you, probably before the debate, all of you thought that the banning cell phone is a crazy idea. How many of you still think, after hearing the very strong affirmative speech, that, well, it's not a good idea to ban cell phones? Still citing the negative? Okay. Now, I'd like to welcome Professor Yano to give us a few comments about the debate. Okay.
Thank you very much. Can everyone hear me?
Pull it out. It seems to work better.
Hello? Oh, that's much better. I can hear the lovely sound of my voice. Yeah, I don't think it's a surprise that I think on the affirmative on this topic is a very hard job. They have to convince you to give up something that you've become accustomed to. Right? Can you imagine your life without your mobile phone? I have had to live my life without my mobile phone for a couple of reasons. First, it doesn't work in Japan. It's not very fancy, it's very simple, so it doesn't work in Japan. But secondly, and most importantly, 2 days before I came, my wife dropped her phone into the water, and it doesn't really work all that well. It can kind of answer calls, and a few of the buttons work. If you want to dial a number that only involves 1s, 4s, and 7s, I think, then you can dial, but otherwise it doesn't work. And so she begged to have my phone while I was gone because it won't work in Japan anyway. So I've had to live this nightmare of the affirmative proposition. A couple of things about the debate. How many of you have seen a debate before? A couple. How many of you this is your first debate to see? Very good. All right. So here's a couple of things to note about debate. Maybe you might find yourself debating. One of the things we all do all the time is we argue. We might not debate. Debate is very formal, but we argue. We argue with our friends. We argue with our family members. We argue with people we're in a relationship with. Something very natural. And a debate is a formal exercise that can help us get better at arguing in daily life. Because it's something as human beings that we do with everyone. Even simple arguments about where to go have lunch with your friends or who supports the better baseball team. Things like this. These things are natural human interaction. Debates can help us get better at that. So a couple of things. When you're in a debate where you are proposing a policy change, that is, we're going to do something different than we have before, it is extremely important that you say, here is a clear, pressing, and serious problem that faces us. Right? Here's a very clear pressing means timely, right? It's immediate, it's happening now, and clear and very serious. And here's the clear solution, here's the thing that you can do to stop that. If you can do those things, then you're well on your way to convincing the audience. If you can relate that problem to them and say, here's how this affects you in your daily life. In this debate, we had a couple of moments like this where they listed a number of different problems. Accidents, attention in school, and problems with brain cancer, perhaps. On the negative side, you had several moments where people mentioned things like, well, we're going to educate instead. And they mentioned things like crime, emergencies, and being able to keep track of your children. So we have two problems and two solutions. So how does one compare it? Well, you clarify. You compare the two policies against each other and you say, what do we gain and what do we lose? Right? What are the things that we gain and what do we lose as far as this goes? And near the end of the debate, we saw move into my second point that I want to discuss, which is the importance of having a very clear introduction and a very clear conclusion whenever you're addressing an audience. You always want to set them somewhere to where they can think to your advantage. Right? So in this debate, it would be good to hear maybe a small story about how a life could have been interrupted or harmed or upset by the unattentive use of mobile phones. Over here, we might want to hear a story about how someone's life was saved. And in fact, we did hear a story of some elementary school students who were lost. And they were found because of the GPS in the phone. We want to hear stories that people can relate to. That's extremely important when you're debating, is you have to relate to the audience. And an audience who has never seen a debate before will come with a lot of their own preconceptions. So one of the ways to stop these preconceptions is to make sure that you put them somewhere where they can think, oh, how horrible or how awesome would that be? Right? So you want to put them in those positions. My next point, the most important phrase in a debate ever. You may want to write this one down because you'll use it. This is the best phrase you can ever use in a debate. It's very simple, 2 English words, but actually it's 3, I think, because there's a contraction in it. But the phrase is, here's why. Here is why. Right? 3 words, right? Here's why. Most important phrase in a debate. If you make an argument with someone, you say, we should ban mobile phones for minors. Here's why. This will get us immediate benefits in the production, the productivity, the attentiveness, and the value of people to our society if we ban minor mobile phone use immediately. Here's why. And then you explain the information. So anytime you're arguing with anyone, using that phrase will get you much farther, much farther in the debate. You can use it to get your proof out, your explanation out. The most important thing you can do in a debate is explain. But lots of explanation on both sides. But it could have had maybe a bit more explanation, a bit more connection, I think, to the audience. But otherwise, it's very good information and very good points. You may have noticed that all of these debaters are very organized. How did they keep track of everything? Did you notice this? They were able to say, here's what they said last time, here's what they said 2 speeches ago, and you might be thinking, wow, how do they do that? Well, they take very careful notes. I don't know if you can see it or not, but here are mine from the debate. So I'm trying to conserve paper, so I wrote on both sides, but sometimes we write on 3, 4, 5 different sheets. keeping very careful notes. This is to be thought of like if you practice music, sort of like written music. It tells me what happens when in the debate as a relation to time. So which argument was made by who and at what point in the debate. So as we go down, it's later in the speech, and as we go across, it's later in the debate. And each person has a column, and in the back, several other columns. I circle arguments I thought were important that I wanted to talk about. So always keep very careful notes. I noticed many of you were not writing anything down. This is not a very good way to make a decision in a debate. You have to keep track of everything carefully. Always take notes when you're watching debate or listening to debate so that you can make a better decision. That's how you stay organized. Finally, one of the things that you might want to think about when you debate is to be as specific as possible with your arguments, as specific as possible. Instead of talking about, in general, Japanese students tend to draw pictures in class, or children stay up late and read comic books or things like this, or people can be walking across the street and maybe not be attentive. Really put people into a time and a place, right? If you can reference the local environment, this is good. Or if you can reference an event everybody is familiar with, this is good because it will shock people back into attention. It's very hard to stay attentive for so long. And then all kinds of other factors are distracting your audience at all times when you speak. I teach public speaking in the US all the time, and there's so many factors distract people. All kinds of factors, from the time of day, people are thinking about what they're going to do tonight, they're thinking about what they want to have for dinner, they're thinking about that it might be hot in the room, they're thinking about whether it might still be raining, thinking about all kinds of things, right? Oh, I have that assignment due, You're fighting a losing battle when you speak in front of a crowd. So you always want to find ways to keep them more attentive. You know, even simple things, right? Things that will keep them going, and one of the ways of doing that is to be much more specific. So I think that those are my general comments on the debate. I thought the debate was good. I thought it was very, there was a lot of what we call clash. And clash is when you have arguments that directly conflict. So at the end of the debate, we are told that we have to make a decision of whether or not, from this side, to prohibit it or not, right? Minors are, and then from this side, minors are the most vulnerable people, and the government has an obligation to protect the most vulnerable people. Or else why would we have governments if they weren't there to protect people who can't be protected from other means? So these are my thoughts. Thank you for your attention. I hope you enjoyed the debate, and please keep in mind that these people have been doing this for a while, and it's something that you could easily do if you thought it was interesting. Maybe you're sitting out there and you're thinking, ooh, they didn't bring this up. Maybe they should have brought that up. If you're thinking like this, or you're like, well, that argument's not any good, I would have said it like this. This is very good. If you're thinking like this, it means you should be up here next time. All right? So, thank you. Good debate, and I turn it back over to the professor. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Yano. Now, I think we have a few minutes for question and answer. So if you have a question, either in English or Japanese, you can ask, and probably you can ask in Chinese too. Because Tony is originally from, do you speak Chinese?
Chinese is fine.
Any questions? Well, the question can be about this particular debate, or debate in general, or something about American debate life, or the student life. Could be. Nihongo de mo ii desu yo.
So I have a question to the affirmative side. I just think that some of the points you showed to us is the not so unique problem for minors. I mean, today's result is about limited to minors, but some of the points are not so unique for minors. But it is also acceptable for adults. So I just have a question that such points will also really data for unique points for minors.
Chris and I don't actually believe in this resolution, but that's one of the things that debate will teach you to learn. I notice on the invitation it says the arguments made do not reflect the views of the participants, and that's definitely true. But what debate will do is it will force you to take maybe a side that you don't necessarily believe, or you learn more about the other side's arguments, and it can strengthen your belief in one side, or it might sometimes even change your mind. And so you're right that a lot of the arguments we were making also apply to adults. I walk and talk on my phone in the street all the time, and maybe if the radiation affects children, it affects adults too. But sometimes you're given a topic that you just have to make the best of it. So I think that's a great point and a great question, and actually one of the fun things about debate, which is that you start engaging sides and topics that you might not actually believe in or have thought about.
Well, the question might be if it's necessary for the affirmative side to justify only prohibiting minors use rather than adult use, and I think that's one of the points raised from the negative side. And I think, well, maybe I don't think the affirmative has the obligation to show that, okay, we should prohibit minors from using cell phones, and whether adults action is concerned. If the affirmative proposal produces benefit by prohibiting minors use, I think that the affirmative obligation, and it's negative job to raise the question if it's necessary.
Yeah, I think I'll add to that, and I think it's an important point that you make, is to prove that there's a problem with the policy. So you could imagine that if they say, okay, we should ban mobile phones for minors because it causes them great danger and causes them the ability to be hit by cars because they're not paying attention when they cross the street. That could be the argument in the affirmative. What would you think if the negative got up and said, that's a great proposal that you bring us today, but you're not solving for starvation in Africa. Why doesn't your policy solve for starvation in Africa? It's a bad policy because it doesn't. Well, this would be considered irrelevant. I think that's sort of the point that is being made here, is that if you say, well, you don't solve for adults, or you don't solve for alternate things that children can do to hurt their studies, that connection needs to be very tightly made to what's bad about that. What's bad about that? If the affirmative can easily say, oh yeah, children will stay up late and read comic books, sure. But at least we can solve the problem in relation to phones. And I think that's the important thing, is to make sure everything's tight. The affirmative could also say it's the specific combination of age and mobile phone technology and the places where they use that are inappropriate is what we fix, and we save lives there. Of course, people might die from other things, but that's not our responsibility as the affirmative. Now, you don't have to solve all problems, and I think that's an important point to make, and a very good question to bring it up. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, time is running out. We'd like to close the debate, but before I'd like to announce the next session. That is a lecture by Professor Yano about disembodied debate. It's about teaching arguments and the internet. The lecture will take place room 2201, down 2 floors down, as you can see on the